Hello all, welcome to my tutorial. This is my fourth tutorial on Python. So in this session we'll understand Python identifier, Python variables and identifiers, naming convention rules. So first let's understand Python identifier. So what is Python identifier? So Python identifier is uh, it is a name given to variables in Python program mainly. I mean there are few things that we'll be using, right? So variables, functions, module, and classes, the objects, constants. So so when defining these things in Python program, we have to provide some name to these different concept. I mean different things like variables, functions, class. So that name is nothing but an identifier. Okay, variables or module, variables, functions, or we call it as any module. So this piece of things like variable, functions, module, class will will I will dedicate one session for these of the concepts in my later tutorial. But for now just understand what is identifier. Class, objects, or any constants, or any other objects. So name given to these things, that is called the Python identifier. Okay, so what is the Python variables? So Python variable is nothing but a memory location. Whenever we are defining any variable, it uh, it needs a memory location where that variable is stored. So suppose I am defining, so variable is it is the name given to given to memory memory location. So that is called the variable. So suppose I am defining x equal to 10. So here x is a variable and 10 is the value assigned to that variable. So x is, so when we are defining any variable, it is going to stored in some memory location. So that memory location is referred by the value variable x. Okay, so x is the name of that memory location, or we call that, or we can call it as a label for that memory location. And in that memory location value is 10. Okay, next thing, while defining identifiers, so x is a variable, x is an identifier of type variable. Okay, now let's understand what are the naming conventions are available. So let me go to my tool where we can understand naming conventions. So before that, let me give you more example of variable. So x is an identifier variable type. Suppose we can define a function like this in Python. Let me go to my notepad. Def frequency function, or suppose I'm writing like this, print test. So this func is a function name. So func is a identifier of the type function. Suppose I'm defining one class. So class test, suppose, and under that some exception I'm defining. So so this is the name of the class is test. So test is an identifier of type class. Okay, similarly we can define module, constants, or anything. So whatever the name we will give into those things, that comes and that we call it as identifier in Python programming. Now naming conventions, for that let me go to the DLE tool. So rule number one, so let's focus one by one. Rule number one, so hash is used to comment provide comment to give comment to any lines in Python programming. So that means comment means that line of code will not be executed by Python interpreter. Okay, so rule number one is only these are the letters allowed, only alphabets lower or capital letters. Okay, only alphabets lower or capital letters, and then digits 0 to 9. Okay, and then underscore. So these are the characters are allowed in uh, variable name. Alphabets we can use either capital or lower letters, or combination of both, or digits 0 to 9, or underscore. Okay, so let's define one variable. Suppose I'm giving the first name, or let's say first underscore name underscore 1 equal to let's say Mike. So this is a valid first underscore name underscore 1 is a valid um, variable name. Okay, if you print this, we'll get that first underscore name underscore 1. So we'll get that Mike string. Okay, rule number 2, let's go to the rule number 2. Rule number 2, it contains it cannot start with cannot start with number. Okay, so variable name cannot start with number. Suppose if you write 1 underscore first name, suppose, so this is not a valid syntax. Okay, it will give a error. Suppose I'm giving first name test or something, so it will give index error, syntax error, invalid token index error. So a variable name in Python cannot start with a number. Okay, you can put number to end or middle of the variable name, but it cannot be the first character of the variable. And rule number three is cannot contain spaces or special characters like hash or at the rate or dollar percentage ampersand etc. Okay, these special characters are not allowed. So let's put some name. Suppose I'm giving dollar salary, dollar as I'm writing like this, dollar ALARY equal to 500. So this is not a valid variable name, so it will give an error. Okay, so see, invalid syntax name. Suppose I'm writing first hash name equal to, just see, name first is not defined, so hash cannot be within the variable name. Similarly, we can check with other special characters, that is not allowed. Let's go to the rule number 4, that is variable name is case sensitive. Okay, so suppose I am writing x equal to 10 and capital X equal to 10 or 20. So these two variables, Python interpreter will always treat this x and capital X as two different variable. Okay, it's not a same variable. So in Python the variable name is case sensitive. So if you print x and if you print x value x, it will give 20. So that means lowercase x or capital X is not same in Python programming. So it will treat as two different variable. Rule number 5 is rule number 5 keywords are not allowed. So keywords are not allowed. Keywords or reserved words are not allowed. Okay. So there are some words in Python programming where that word has some special meaning to the Python interpreter. So those words are called as reserved words or keywords. So those words we cannot use as a variable name. So if you try, see def, we have seen that def keyword is used to define any function. So if we use def equal to 10, so this will give an error, syntax error, right? Because def is a keyword and I am defining a variable name with the same word, so it will give a syntax error. Similarly, if you see continue is a variable keyword, and also if you notice the color is changing when you are typing the keyword, the color is coming some orange color or some different color, right? So that means it's a keyword. So that is all again syntax error. So keywords or reserved word, there are around 35 keywords are there, so we cannot use that keywords for defining any variable name. Rule number 6 is no length limits. No length limits. So that means a variable name can be of any number of characters. Length is not defined. I mean, it's not like it should be less than 50 characters or less than 30 characters. It can be of any length. Okay, so suppose I am giving like this variable name equal to 50. So this is a valid variable name. See, there is no error. So that means it's a valid variable name. So let me go to the next rule, that is rule number 7. So let's rule number 7, it's not a rule but few of the things that we need to mm, understand at this point, like if a variable name starts with underscore var1, then we call it as private in Python programming. Okay. Rule number 8. Rule number 8. If if a variable name starts with double underscore, suppose var1, so then we call it as a strongly private. Okay, strongly private. Rule number 9. If a start, suppose a start or end with underscore, then we call it as then we should understand that it's a language specific variable. Language specific variables. Language specific variables, or we can say the system defined. System defined. 9 is done. Rule number 10, we should re remember that the variable name should not be too long and should not be too long, and it should have meaningful description. Meaning meaningful meaningful description. So variable name should always have some, I mean, have some meaningful name. So always we should give some meaningful name, so that the seeing the variable name, one should understand that what the meaning of that variable, what value that variable has got. So we should remember that it should be short and descriptive, short and meaningful. Okay, rule number 11. So casing thing. Use a casing scheme. Use a casing scheme. So while defining variable, we should focus on I mean, how we can write a variable name. So we can write like this. So this first, suppose a variable name consists of multiple words, then in that case we can write a variable name like this. First word in all lowercase, and the next words onward, the first letter is in capital. Suppose this is Sachin I'm giving. So this type of writing style is called camel casing. Camel casing. We can use that. We can use this way of um, defining a variable name, or we can write like this. First, this way of writing is called Pascal casing. Pascal casing. Okay, Pascal casing. And next we can write like first. So first, next way of writing, we can define a variable like this: first underscore and then separated with underscore. This is called snake casing. This is called snake casing. So but this is recommended. This is recommended, but either of this type of casing is fine. So it based on the user preferences, but but that should be only, it should not be like somewhere in the program you are writing the variable name using camel casing, and somewhere you are writing is snake casing. It should be consistent across the program. Okay, so that's all I have in this session. Thank you all, thanks for watching.